Good morning. Since I've learned how to use the green screen, I'm like totally fascinated. This is one of my paintings. This is one that is for sale. This is a class that I taught. Do not mind this hair. Today it is getting highlighted because it's just way too dark, the underneath part. So I might have to run over to Sally. But I'm digressing. Do you have your coffee? What are you working on today? What is the weather doing? I'm Kitryn Marie. I reside in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm an artist, a writer, a speaker, life and a business coach, teach a variety of art classes, getting ready to teach how to write a book. I am a published author. When He Had Her, you won't be able to say it, When He Had Her, it's available on Amazon. I'm working on my second book, Seaside Shore. It has been a lot to, I am a hot mess this morning. It has been a lot to get back to writing because when you write, it takes such an emotional toll on your thought process and how you were bringing these characters to life. And oftentimes I will start with the premise of the story, kind of the build up so you know the storyline. And then I will put chapters together in no consecutive order. And I'll get it all wrote out, and then I will go back in and piece which chapter needs to go where. So in Seaside Shore, I'll give you a little, a preview of how the story. A gal leaves Bangor, Pennsylvania, to go to the Outer Banks, North Carolina, and she's given up her dream in Bangor. Her father has died. She's been left a resort that is so run down, and it is up to her to rebuild her father's legacy. Her father was military, and he had an order for everything, which she had no order for anything. She lived by the seat of her pants, basically. She meets this gentleman through happenstance. She goes into this one place to get a sandwich, and this person is there, and the person who's behind the counter can't take something to this guy, and she ends up taking it to this guy, and it develops a friendship. Anyway, the more she gets into understanding who this person is, there's so much familiarity and similar things that she is trying to really understand and put Jake into the correct category and how he's going to fit into her life. And he's there, and then he's not there, and then he shows up, and then he disappears again. And each time he comes back, she finds out a little bit more about his background and the secrets that he has personally, that he doesn't want anybody to know the real him. So I'm going to try to read this chapter while I have the time, and I have my beach painting behind me because it's very, appropriate with the storyline. And that might be the cover of the book, but I don't know. Okay, the avoidant dismissive. The beach was empty in a way offshore season often was seen, wide, exposed, and honest. Jess walked close enough to the water that her boots sank where the sand still remembered winter. The waves were no longer icy. They rolled in cool and insistent, as if rehearsing patience. She felt the chill through her coat anyway. It wasn't the temperature, it was the waiting, the kind that teaches your body to hold its breath long after the threat is past. Jake had always loved this place because it let him disappear without explanation. The horizon did the work for him. No edges, no corners, nothing to get pinned against. When things tightened, he'd just drift. When they softened, he'd return, sun-salted and familiar, asking for continuity with no sequence or no consequence. Time to Jake was solvent. If enough time passed, the stain should lift, and Jess should be used to that until the residue started to burn. She stood where he once promised permanence, replaying the moments he vanished again. No call, No knock, no words sturdy enough to stand on, just absence dressed as self-care. The anger had nowhere to land, so it ricocheted. It found strangers, found memories, found her own reflection in the glass of a beach house window. She hated that part most, how rage looks for a body when the responsible one won't show up. The waves kept time with her pulse, not icy anymore, but not forgiving either. They came in with force and left with theft, dragging pieces of a shore back into themselves. Just thought of the bridge, how something that can be standing one day and unsafe the next. How knowing that doesn't stop you from wanting to cross. Jake knew it too. He dropped and stopped short, turned the gesture off, dropped off a symbol instead of a sentence, returning without returning, control without contact. She said his name out loud, just to hear it break against the wind. It felt dangerous, necessary. The beach answered with nothing. That was the point. She realized avoidance thrives in silence. It counts on the other person to metabolize the damage, to make meaning where none is offered. Jake had perfected the art of absence, and Jess was done being the caretaker. As she turned back from the water, the tension lingered like damp in her clothes. Unresolved doesn't mean invisible, it means charged. She carried that charge with her, not as hope, not as invitation, but as truth. The sea would keep moving whether Jake returned or not, and this time, so would she. Jess understood it now. The waiting wasn't passive, it wasn't performative. Silence was absent, it was bait. Jake didn't disappear to be alone, he disappeared to be missed. Somewhere in the quiet, he expected the echo of her voice to chase him down, to soften the edges of his retreat, to prove that his vanishing still had gravity. It was a cruel economy, withdrawal as currency, longing as a payment. The beach shifted underneath her feet, and the tide pulled back, exposing a dark and darker sand beneath the lighter crust. That was how it always went. When Jake returned in the past, he came lighter, unburdened, as if worry had done the work for him. He'd arrive expecting warmth, not questions, relief, not reckoning, the kind of homecoming where the crowd applauds, but no one asks where have you been or why the house caught fire while you were gone. She saw the pattern with clarity that stung. His training had taught him to execute, not examine, to move when commanded, to shut down when overwhelmed. Don't feel, don't function, don't reflect, advance or retreat, and when emotional terrain grew uneven, he defaulted to extraction. Pull out, regroup, let someone else manage the aftermath. Let someone else hold the problem. Jess was never meant to be a holding zone for unprocessed exits. Anger rose again, hot and directional, but this time it didn't scatter. It aimed itself correctly, not at the world, not at herself, but at the expectation that love should be proven through pursuit. The devotion meant abandoning dignity. That if she didn't chase him into silence, she must not care. The lie was elegant and lethal. The waves collapsed at her feet, and now louder, more insistent, as if the sea itself was objecting Jess at about how often she'd been asked to be the calm one. The understanding, one bigger person, how often she'd have to swallow to rupture and preserve the connection. Jake had mistaken patience for permission, her loyalty for tolerance, his silence for content. And that is a chapter in the book Seaside Shore, if I can ever get back to writing it. It has a little bit more of an emotional charge to it. The beach has great meaning in this whole story. So stay tuned as I continue to write Seaside Shore. If you were interested in When He Had Her, it's available on Amazon. But I'm Kitryn Marie, an artist, writer, speaker, life and a business coach, published author, working on my second book, Seaside Shore. Be happy, be blessed. Remember, fate turns on a dime, and it is up to you to decide what side of the coin you want to be on. If you want to know more about the book, just reach out. Take care. See you soon.